raining very much. It's thundering, something that doesn't happen in Cambridge that often. I've been here for 9 years and it's the third time I see it, so quite exceptional. And we all know that it's exam term as well, so that you're all very busy and that you have a lot of things to do. But it's great that you found the moment to join us today to listen to Òscar Escuder, whom Enrique will introduce very well in just a second. But before we jump onto the talk, I would like to tell you about who it is that is organizing this today. So today's event is an event jointly organized by a lectorat de Català of the University of Cambridge. So basically a lectorat de Català is a position created by the Catalan version of the British Council, which is called Institut Ramon Llull. And from it we try to organize activities that promote Catalan language and culture abroad, and this is one of them. Apart from a lectorat, we have the Catalan Society of the University of Cambridge also collaborating with the organization of this event. The Catalan Society, apart from collaborating with the lectorat with the cultural activities, also organizes more festive and other types of activities, and we encourage you to go onto the Facebook website and check out what's going on. And without any further ado,
thank you very much, Afra, for the introduction. Well, on behalf of the CUCAT and Institut Ramon Llull, we are very happy that you are here attending this event, which is entitled Catalan, a minoritized language. What can an NGO do to reverse this situation? So the topic of today is to put the Catalan language in context and discuss what we can call the Catalan paradigm. On the one hand, we can see that Catalan is nowadays a powerful language that counts on more than 10 million speakers distributed in 4 different states: Spain, France, Andorra, and Italy. It has a strong presence in the media, both printed and digital. It is the 14th language in the European Union, the 7th most studied language in the European Union, and it is taught in many universities worldwide, in particular 161 universities. So this happens on the one hand, but on the other hand, this strong vitality often clashes with legislation and institutions that either ignore or discriminate when it comes to Catalan linguistic rights. Catalan has suffered decades or even centuries of severe linguistic repression, and it is still today too often in conditions of minoritisation, which will be discussed in the event today. A vital institution to reverse this unfair situation is Plataforma per la Llengua, the NGO that aims at protecting and defending Catalan linguistic rights all over the Catalan-speaking territories. Plataforma per la Llengua has more than 19,000 associates and has been very dynamic in many action areas, including the promotion of Catalan within immigrant population, campaigning to achieve better legal recognition for the Catalan language, campaigning for linguistic consciousness, or the promotion of Catalan in both public and private sectors, as in cinema, universities, businesses, signs and indications, and the labeling of products, for example. Well, Dr. Òscar Escuder is a multifaceted person. He's a cranio-maxillofacial surgeon at the Hospital of Parc Taulí of Sabadell, in which he is also the director of the maxillofacial surgery service. Well, but he's not here for that. He's here because he's the president of Plataforma per la Llengua since 2002, for very long. And this is the reason why we invited him. And please, I won't take more time and give way to Òscar.
Thank you, Enrique. Yeah. Thank you, Afra, as well. I want, first of all, to thank... Try not to move too much. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank the Catalan Society of the Cambridge University and the Institut Ramon Llull for organizing this event, as Afra told you. And then before starting, I will tell you something that if you are students of languages probably know much more than me, but I want to make 3 aspects clear before starting. First of all, the difference between what is a minority language and a minoritized language. Minority language is a language spoken by few people. Minoritized language is a language which in its own territory has been banned, persecuted, or marginalized in any kind of way. Then, that was the first idea. Second idea is that after, as Enric told you, after more than 3 centuries of persecution of the Catalan language, it's a great success that we still exist and with more than 10 million speakers. And last idea, last of these 3 ideas to start, and probably the main ones. After this, we can all go, it's done. It's 3 ideas mainly I want to transmit. Is that what we're asking for is what others already have. We just want to be normal citizens with the same rights as other citizens have. In this case, I'm talking obviously about linguistical rights. What I will tell you is first a few data to introduce you to the Catalan language. Then I'll tell you some strong points, some points where our language is performing good. And then we'll move on to the discrimination and the bad part. And at the end, I will tell you, more or less in short, what our NGO, what Plataforma per la Llengua is doing to try to reverse this situation. As you all know, Catalan is a Latin language that evolved from spoken Latin at the same time than other Latin languages did. The oldest surviving texts written in Catalan date back from the 12th century. And nowadays, Catalan is spoken in 4 European states. Andorra, the small state in the Pyrenees, where Catalan is the only official language. Then in Spain is where most of the Catalan-speaking area is. A small slice in southern France, which used to belong to the Kingdom of Spain before mid-17th century, but after a war, a peace agreement, it went to the kingdom, at that time still a kingdom of France. That's what it's northern Catalonia. And then the Italian Sardinian city of l'Alguer. L'Alguer is a remnant of the Catalan Middle Age empire. And as a curiosity, for over 200 years, people from l'Alguer didn't know exactly what language they spoke. They call it Alguerese, but they didn't know that that was Catalan. And on the other side, other Catalan-speaking people in the continent and in the Balearic Islands, they didn't know that there were someone in l'Alguer who spoke Catalan until last 19th century, when a Catalan archaeologist went to work in l'Alguer and realized that those people were speaking the same that at his home country. Well, now we know where Catalan is spoken today. Now we will put the 10 million speakers in context in the world. Is that big in number of speakers, or is it small? Neither one. It's a medium-sized language. Of course, we cannot compare it with Chinese, the top one. We cannot compare it with English, Spanish, Arabic. We cannot compare Catalan with those really big languages. But we can compare Catalan with many languages that don't have any major problem. In the world, you know, there are more than 6,000 languages spoken, and according to the number of speakers, Catalan position is about the 85th. So it's not one of the smallest at all. That was in the world. What about in the European Union? Well, in the European Union is the 14th, and there are 11 official languages of the European Union which are official in the Union, while Catalan is not, and that's very important. It's very important not being official for us. It causes a great damage to our linguistical rights. I'll tell you later why. And back to the European Union, after Brexit happens, if someday it really happens, we will be the 13th. Not the 14th, but the 13th. Okay. Now we go to the strong points. More than 10,000 book titles per year published in Catalan. Our education system ensures that children learn both languages, Catalan and Spanish, by the end of their primary education. And that's right. Sometimes our educational system has been constantly or many times attacked by the Spanish political parties and institutions, but I'll give you a data of the Ministry of Education of Spain. So it's not our data, but their data. It says that in Spain there are 17 autonomous communities, and for the exams they do before getting into university, Catalan students rank the 4th in Spanish language marks. So our students are the 4th out of 17. So whenever you find someone that tells you that Spanish it's not used, it's not taught or whatever at Catalan schools, you can tell them for sure that they are not right. Either they could be mistaken or they are trying to somehow damage our language and the use of our language. And worldwide, there are 161 universities who teach Catalan. Of course, this one is one of these 161. And where are these universities? For instance, there are 20 in the United States, 16 in France, 21 in Germany, and 19 in the UK. And what do you think about the non-Catalan speaking territories of Spain? There are only 8. So it looks like Spanish scholars are much less interested in Catalan than British or German scholars, for instance. Looks strange to me. About the media, you see 3 out of 4 radio sets turned on in Catalonia are speaking Catalan. And our Catalan public TV station is also a leader of audience. I must say that this is not only because of the language, this is also because of people feels that the information given by Catalan media are much more reliable than information given by the Spanish media. But the figure is good for the language as well. Regarding migrants, we're doing relatively well. The figure is not fantastic, but taking into account the situation is not bad either. It's much to improve, but you see it's a bit more than 50% of migrants coming to Catalan-speaking territories learn Catalan, and about 80% of them understand Catalan. So it's more or less okay, but still we have to improve this as well. Now, in internet and new technologies is some of the aspects, some of the fields where Catalan is performing really good. You see 98% of the smartphones sold in Spain are available, the operative systems are available as well in Catalan. And this, to a good extent, is due to our NGO's work. Some years ago, we did some lobbying on the companies, on the cell phone companies, and we got good results. Last one to put its operative system in Catalan, not a year ago yet, it has been Huawei, it was the last one. In internet, as I told you, we are good. 9 out of the 10 most visited websites in Catalonia have an interface in Catalan. And then we are the 19th most language that has more web pages per number of per speaker, and the 26th language in total number of web pages. So if we are the 85th largest language and we are the 26th in total number of web pages, I think that's a good data as well. Well, we will talk a bit about Barça, even though the result of yesterday. Catalan is the official language of FC Barcelona since more than a century. And one thing that I think it's very curious is that the Twitter account in Catalan of Barça has more than 5.7 million followers. And remember, we are 10 million speakers, so more than half of them, more than half of us, follow the Twitter account of Barça in Catalan. And that compares very good, even with Twitter accounts in their languages of big football clubs like Bayern Munich in German, Juventus in Italian, PSG in French, or even we have just a few less followers than Manchester City in English. And we have many many more or less follow. Manchester United Twitter account in English has over 20 million followers, so we're very far from that. But it's the only one, I think. Well, some famous Catalan speakers. You always know the first one, Pep Guardiola. You might know as well Gerard Piqué, Xavi Hernández, many FC Barcelona football players. The lady down left is a very famous opera singer who passed away less than 1 year ago. This lady here is one of the most best Catalan writers of the 20th century, Mercè Rodoreda.
Second-year Catalan students know her very well.
Their face as well? Okay. Mercè Rodoreda. And someone knows the upper right gentleman? Good. He's Gaudí, the architect of Sagrada Familia and many other buildings. You know, he was Catalan speaker, but he's relevant here. Why? Because in 1924, so almost a century ago, he got in trouble for speaking Catalan. He was arrested for refusing to speak Spanish to a police officer. That was in 1924. Remember this when I tell you later on about the discriminations we Catalan speakers suffer today. Yet we still go through very similar situations. This gentleman, this doctor, I deeply admire him. He was an outstanding orthopedic surgeon. He was Catalan. He developed a new method for war injuries treatment during the Spanish Civil War. After the Civil War, he had to flee, and he settled in Oxford, where he kept working for the British wounded soldiers, and he kept working for World War II injuries, and then he kept working until he retired. But besides that, he's not here for that. He's here because he wrote as well this book you see at the bottom. He wrote it originally in English, 1941, and the book is The Spirit of Catalonia. He said it was a clinical history of Catalonia. It's a short, easy to read, and very interesting book. If you have the chance, I do recommend it that you read it. And you can read it both in English or in Catalan. It's translated, but the original version of the book was in English. We were talking before about migrants. Here we have some famous migrants who learned Catalan. The one left is a former Catalan president. About 10 years ago, he was president of Catalonia. He was from southern Spain. He came many years ago to Catalonia. He, of course, learned Catalan, and he ended up being Catalan president. The one in the middle is Pablo Picasso, also from southern Spain. He settled as well in Barcelona for a few years before going to Paris, and he as well learned Catalan. Andrés Iniesta, you probably all know him. And you probably don't know the lady at the bottom. She's an Italian architect. She's Benedetta Tagliabue. She lives in Barcelona, and she also has a special link with the UK because she was one of the main architects of the Scottish Parliament. So far we're quite okay, right? But then why we say we are in a hostile environment? Why we say we are linguistically discriminated? What is wrong with our situation? We go now to the bad part of the situation. What makes our environment hostile for 10 million speakers? Well, you see, Catalan speakers, this is divided in the 4 states. I told you before that Catalan is spoken. In Spain, we don't have the same rights. We do have some rights in most of the areas, not in all of them, but I'll tell you later about it. But we do have rights, but we don't have really the same rights that Spanish speakers have. In France, in northern Catalonia, Catalan speakers have no linguistic rights. Catalan has no official recognition at all. In Andorra, Catalan is the only state language, so that's good. They have all the rights recognized, but it's a very small state. It's a microstate, so the power is limited, and it's not a European Union member state. And in L'Alguer, for the first time last year, the Sardinian parliament passed a law which will permit that from next school year, Catalan is going to be taught at the schools, or should be taught at the schools. We'll see how it works, but that's the idea. That's the aim. And it's recognizing for first time some rights of the Catalan speakers in front of the local public administration. So when we put it on the map, what you see in blue, the small dot there is where we are better. That's Andorra, the small state in the Pyrenees. What you see in red, so most of the surface, is where we have rights, but it's kind of second-class officialty. Alguer here, I just told you about Alguer. And what you see in orange, so northern Catalonia, which is in France, remember, and the eastern strip of Aragon, there Catalan speakers have no rights at all. And for instance, in the eastern strip of Aragon, more than 80% of the people is Catalan speaking because it's an area with very little migration. So almost everybody there has their linguistical rights and existent. Well, in Andorra, just to remind you that it's an state, and you will see later that this has an importance, even being a small state. In northern Catalonia, it's a big contrast, a big gap between people's opinion and the response of the French institutions. You see, 72% of the citizens in northern Catalonia want an official status for Catalan language, while it has no recognition at all. And 76% of the population want Catalan to be taught at school. And only 25% of the students can access some education in Catalan. This some education means that only 7 to 8% have real bilingual schooling, while the other 17 to 18%, they have from half an hour to 2 hours of Catalan lessons at school per week. And these data are from the Institut Français d'Opinion Publique. So they are their own official data. It's not like before I was telling data from the Spanish Ministry of Education. This is official French data. Well, in Alguer, I told you, and we are happy as well, that for this law, we, the Plataforma per la Llengua, helped and gave support to several politicians to how this law should be. So to some extent, is as well our work that contributed to this law. Well, you see here a linguistic map of Spain. In Spain, you see the blue there is Galician, Astur-Leonese next to Galician, Basque in the top, the gray, Catalan, which remember is official everywhere except on the strip of Aragon. The red one is Occitan, is Aranese. Aragonese, the yellow one, and some of them, Catalan, I told you the status of Catalan, but then Aragonese and Astur-Leonese, they have no official recognition at all as well. So with this, just is to tell you that it's not that the Spanish institutions and the Spanish state have something against Catalan. What they have is something against linguistic diversity. It's not anything against only us. And you see, this starts right from the Spanish Constitution. So the top law says that the Spanish is the official language at the state level and makes compulsory for everybody to know how to speak Spanish. And that's the only, together with the Bulgarian Constitution in the world, that oblige people to learn some language. And Catalan, Basque, and Galician, I told you they have some recognition, but they are not official in the state. And this means, as you see down there, more than 1/4 of the Spanish population. And this brings that the Council of Europe questions Spain's linguistic policy. Why is that? Because in 1992, the Council of Europe wrote the European Charter for Regional and Minority Languages, which Spain signed and approved and should be applied in Spain since 2001, but not surprisingly, nothing changed, and Spain is not respecting the Charter as it should. And the main breaches, the main areas where they are not respecting the European Charter are the judiciary and the public administration. What does it mean? Well, this means that judges working in Catalan-speaking territories are not even required to understand Catalan. This means that even the law, to some extent, never the recognition is the same, but the law, to some extent, guarantees the citizens to have a procedure in Catalan. But when the judge does not understand Catalan, this right is not guaranteed. And we have cases that from the court, we have a report to a lawyer saying, yeah, you have the right, we can do that if you want, but we let you know that if you insist in having this procedure in Catalan, it may delay up to 5 years. So it's like that. Same thing happens with civil servants working. They are not required even to understand Catalan. And you see, we have a compilation of, now it's already some more, unaddressed linguistic discriminations, blatant linguistic discriminations. That means that the citizen who suffered this discrimination really had a bad effect because of that. Bad effect means that, for instance, somebody went to a police station to renew the ID card or the passport and couldn't. They're having cases of aggressions even. People fined to speak to Catalan to a police officer in the airport. And the worst cases I feel, in cases of divorce, there are several cases that the judge gave the custody only to the parent who was not living or speaking Catalan, in cases that parents were far, and that's written in rulings from the court. So it's not. And the worst thing is that this compilation, all the cases we know, they are not all, because many of them are not reported, so we never get to know them. And many others are avoided by citizens because they're afraid to speak Catalan when they go to a public administration office. So they just speak Spanish instead. And of course, what I was telling you before of the Council of Europe and the European Charter, there is a committee of experts that every 3 or 4 years check how the states respect the Charter, and they do a report. And this report, if you took the report of 2003, 2004, and you took the report of last year, would be the same. This means that Spain it's not changing anything, regardless this, even though the Council of Europe is telling to the state that you're not doing the things right. No, this one. Here we go. Remember, I told you having a state is an important thing, even is a small state, even it's not an EU member state. Well, Andorra is member of the United Nations. So what does it mean? That while Catalan cannot be spoken at the Spanish Parliament, in the Spanish Senate, and the European Parliament, Catalan can be spoken in the UN General Assembly. That's why, because Andorra is a member state of the United Nations. So we have something good of having a state, even is a small one. Well, all this I have told you, all these discriminations were dependent on the Spanish central government. But unfortunately, our regional governments are not doing at the highest level, though. We have some things that they are not doing properly. To work in the Catalan health system, you're not required to understand Catalan. We have had cases of discriminations as well when going to a GP or to the nurse or whatever. And we have laws as well, like the Consumer Code of Catalonia and the Catalan Cinema Law, that they were passed by the parliaments, but they are not respected, and that's our own government's fault. So it's not everything is fault of the central government in Madrid. Again, I told you this before. Our education system works pretty good, but regardless, in spite of the results, it's been never accepted by many Spanish institutions. It's always questioned, and we have to work to defend the use of the Catalan language in the schooling system. Now we go to the issue of the importance of not being official in the European Union. It's important because it has many reasons why it is so important. Because Catalan MEPs cannot speak Catalan in the European Parliament, because Catalan-speaking citizens cannot address to the European institutions in Catalan, because there are no official translations of the European regulation into Catalan, and this prevents our lawyers even more to work in Catalan. But most of anything else, it is important because there are lots of interferences here. It says potential interference, but it's not potential, it's real, and it's very often. Interferences of European laws, legal acts, with our own Catalan or even Spanish laws or regulations. And in that, because many times European laws ask whatever to be done in an official European Union language. And this means, in practice, that they are banning it from doing it in Catalan. And this affects many, many things, especially related with consumer relationships. So, as a result of everything I have told you until now, we need a state that protects us, not a state that keeps attacking us every time it can. Is everything clear until here? Any doubt, anything you want to... Because now we're going to move on to what we are doing as an NGO. Any question on the situation? You want to ask something? Comment anything? Everything right? Okay.
No, sorry.
So, well, you know, Plataforma per la Llengua is the NGO that we try to defend and promote the use of Catalan, defend the linguistic rights of Catalan-speaking citizens. And we work in all the Catalan-speaking territories, and we do it with a cross-cutting approach. I will not tell you much about our history, but just we started as a very little association with 10, 12 members, and nowadays we became, as far as we know, the largest NGO working exclusively on linguistic rights. There are other NGOs that work in other aspects, including languages, that are larger than we are, but working exclusively on linguistic rights, as far as we know, we are the largest in the world. We have now more than 19,000 members, hundreds of volunteers, and 40 professionals working for the NGO. Well, this is just to emphasize that we do work in all the Catalan-speaking area. And what do we do? What do we do? Our work has like three main aspects. On the one side, the lobbying. On the one side, increase the public awareness. And then we offer services. What about the lobbying? Well, we lobby, we could say, all administrations, with special attention to the regional administrations and the Spanish administration, which includes the judiciary, and those, as I told you before, they are very important. The international institutions, less, because that Catalan becomes or not an official European Union language, it doesn't depend on them. It depends on the political will of the Spanish government only. And we do as well lobbying in the business sector. Well, about the public awareness, we do all this. We do appearances on the media, so to trying to transmit our point of view and knowledge of the real situation of the language to everyone that wants to listen to us. We organize events, we do merchandising and publications, advertising, we use the social media, and we have communications with our members and supporters. As you see, in 2018, we had more than 1,500 media appearances. For instance, here, one example in a health care center, a gynecologist that threatened a patient that she would not treat her if she kept speaking Catalan. So just trying to denounce this every time, unfortunately. Well, the services we offer, and the services as well are a source of income for the NGO, because of course we need some money to do all this. We do support and advice on language complaints. We have a very good department of people that gets everything which is reported, gets in touch with the affected person, try to check whether what the affected person says is...
No worries, no worries.
is the same on the other side, and we try to, so we have a very good department on advice on language complaints. Tools, we developed, for instance, 2 cell phone apps to help to use and learn Catalan. We do workshops on linguistic volunteering, and consulting and linguistic auditing is the part where we get the income. So how do we do it? We have our work divided in 7 work areas. That's to make that every area works in its own. So we have professionals that know specifically more about one area than others, so they work by areas. You see justice, integration and social cohesion, culture, leisure and youth, education and universities, language rights, business and international. That's our working areas. In integration and social cohesion, to make it short, what we try to do here is that when people coming from wherever, from Ukraine, meet somebody else coming from an Arabic country, when they meet, they speak Catalan. So we try to make Catalan the language of social cohesion. And of course, we are very much in favor that this one from Ukraine and that one from Morocco, they keep knowing their own languages. We think that that's very important, because that's, on the one side is cultural richness, and on the other side is opportunity for business. So we want both, the cultural aspect and the business opportunity. In culture, leisure and youth, well, we try to make Catalan available as much as we can. For instance, one field where it's lacking very much in Catalan is the video games, and we're trying to work on that field. In education, as I told you, we need still to protect our educational system because it's constantly under attack. Language rights and public administration is, well, what I told you, fighting against all these discriminations we still have. Another example of discrimination that we did a study. We do lots of studies about specific fields because we think that the way to know what's wrong, and when you know what's wrong, you know what you need to change, and then we can start from the knowledge. If we don't have the knowledge, we cannot change anything. So we did one study about the websites of the Spanish state administration, and only 1.6 were totally in Catalan. Totally in Catalan, it means that you went through the web page and you could browse everything in Catalan. All of them, all of these 1.6, were institutions where a Catalan institution were involved. For instance, a research center with Catalan University involved, or a cultural institution where a Catalan museum was involved. None of only Spanish institutions had their websites completely in Catalan. Then you see, in 64% of the Spanish administration websites, Catalan or other Spanish languages were completely non-existent. You might think that's not very bad, but you cannot imagine the same thing, for instance, in Switzerland or in Belgium, where there are different languages. So it's about business and consumer affairs. We try, as always, to put Catalan at the highest level of use, especially in this case, special focus on what the consumer gets. So the labeling, the instructions. Another thing, when at the beginning, remember I was telling you, we ask for something that everybody else has, or maybe not everybody, but everybody on the democratic countries. A guy from Switzerland cannot imagine buying whatever, a TV set, and not finding the instructions of the TV set in their own language, whether his language is German, French, or Italian. We don't find our TV sets instructions in Catalan, and we are 10 million, so it's not a problem of the market size. Well, this is another study we did. That was on the wine sector, just to, in this case, the result was good. We did the first study in 2001, and there was only one wine labeled in Catalan. 2007, there were 29 out of 30, so this was as well partially or to a good extent thanks to our work. This is the same example as the TV set I was telling you before with the Coke. In Iceland, there are 300,000 Icelandic people. They can drink Coke labeled in Icelandic. We are 10 million and we don't have Coke labeled in Catalan. So that's an example, another example of what we're complaining of. In the international field, I told you what we want is having Catalan as the 27th official language of the European Union, and that would be of utmost importance to our language and our linguistical rights. We take part of 3 different networks that work to promote the equality of rights for people who have minority or non-official languages in the European Union. And in Europe, there are 50 million people, 50 million Europeans whose language is a non-official language. Well, our aim in justice, I will just give you a figure in justice. In Catalonia, that's except for Andorra, where the figure is good. In Catalonia, where the figure is the best, we have 8% of rulings, court rulings in Catalan. So that it's obvious that it's not what it should be. So we're trying to change this. And then just a few words about how we use the social media. We have more than 90,000 Facebook followers, more than 50,000 Twitter followers, and how many? 60,000 Instagram followers. And we have as well Telegram and YouTube channels. So if you are studying Catalan and you want to practice Catalan, you can go to any of our social media. A few months ago, we opened our Twitter account in English as well. Here we don't put more local events or news, but we just put what is we think is of wider interest. And this is an example of how we work. You see, before any election, we ask the different political parties about different aspects of their competence. Of if the election is for the European Parliament, for instance, we ask about questions that are competence of the European Union. If it's for the municipality, we ask for the questions which are competence of the town hall. So we ask the political parties what they're going to do if they win in different but specific aspects on the language. Things we have that they're not working properly, and we say we want this, 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 and this to be arranged during next term. And they ask them for responses. We send the letter with the explanations, and we ask them for responses. Then we publish their responses, or as you see in the first 4-1, their silences. Sometimes they don't even respond to us. And to which percentage of commitment they have said that they will do if they win the elections. And this allows for everyone to assess political party position in language matters before voting. And this allows us, after the election, and we tell them, because otherwise it would be very easy to say, we're going to do everything. But then, after the election, we're going to say, oh, it won the one that says at 80%, and they said that they would do this, this, and this. Okay, are you doing this, this, and this? So we track what they said. Of course, we share public endorsement of influencers. That one is a politician, an actress, and our social media, if you want to follow us, and that's it. And bueno, això ja ho he dit abans, ja està, això ho tenim.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So, well, we have time for questions. Any?
Estem gravant encara?
Yeah,
acabat, sí?
yeah.
Sí, no. Okay, any question, any comment, any further explanation, anything you want to know? How we? What do you mean, how we have migrants? Several ways. First, trying to make, we have a kind of network with 27 different organizations of different people from around the world. And first thing is trying to explain that obviously learning another language is an effort. It's not easy to learn a language. But this effort has a
Compensation.
A reward, has a reward. You're going to be, somehow, once you learn Catalan, you speak Catalan, it gives you Catalan nationality somehow. It's I don't know if it's easy to understand or not, but it's something like that. Then you're not missing anything in the society you live in, because otherwise there is people that you can live in any of the Catalan-speaking territories without knowing a word of Catalan. But you're always going to be missing something, and you're not going to have the same work opportunities, for instance, when you go to the job market. And then we have this, first of all, explaining them that yes, we have two languages, and if you come from wherever, it's more difficult to learn two than to learn one. That's obvious. But it's better for you if you learn the two of them. And then we have as well another thing we do is we make people who has already learned Catalan, people from abroad, explain how it has been good for them. So sharing their previous experiences. And that works very good. Oh, yeah. Okay, if you mean the material thing, okay, I was explaining about. Okay, we have. If you're a child, when children come, they have what we call something like arrival classes that they have like an extra support, extra teachers to learn. Sometimes it's not Catalan, it's Spanish as well. So sometimes many people come not knowing none of the languages. So we have extra school support, and this works pretty good as well. And for adults, there is as well an institution of the Catalan government and the major cities that helps people that want to learn both languages as well. So we have. Sometimes it's the most difficult part, I think, is getting to these people. Once either us or the administration can get to the people and explain them everything, all the opportunities they have to learn the languages, then if he or she really wants, it's not that difficult. Yeah, it doesn't work as good as it should. Yeah, that's a problem as well. It's not everything as.
But each region has a different policy regarding the language teaching. So Catalan has a very strong history of having these welcoming classes for people who come from abroad. And unfortunately, in the Balearic Islands and the Valencian community, that's not necessarily the case.
It's improved though in the last before this last political term, there had, both in Balearic Islands and in Valencia, regional governments that were quite hostile to the language. Last 4 years, they have, after the last elections, the governments have improved, but it always takes time and it's money, and so during last time it has improved, but still a lot to do.
So what do you mean like it's hostile education? For example, you can't graduate from bachillerato, for example, if you don't know Catalan. So I know like lots of friends who were Chinese people who didn't go to university or like to finish bachillerato because they didn't speak Catalan. So I don't really understand what you mean by that hostility.
When I talk about hostility, I mean about in general, not in the school system. I don't think it is hostile. It might be not good enough, but it's not hostile to anyone, not to any language. The hostility comes from the public administrations and the idea of the state that most of the citizens of the monolingual part of Spain have, not from the schooling system anywhere. Not even in the worst times of the Balearic and the Valencian governments, teachers are doing the best they can. The problem is that they cannot always do what they would like.
I think that for migrants and foreigners in general, we should mention voluntaris per la llengua. Is that you that organize this, or the government?
We collaborate.
Okay, the people who volunteer themselves to teach Catalan to, I don't know, they gather at a bar or cafe, and it's like more friendly, and this is a big success, I think, in Catalonia, like thousands of volunteers that just meet with someone who just arrived in Catalonia, and they just speak, and then they make friends, but from that are locals, which is very important for them. So, yeah. And perhaps it's more efficient than going to.
They also there are initiatives also trying to reach for communities that are not necessarily inclined to reach for learning the language, such as migrant mothers that might be housewives, so they have less chance of interacting with locals. So in Barcelona there are several initiatives whereby kids from primary school, like older kids, teach the parents in the afternoon, and they try to really bring the parents in and make them feel part of the community as well while learning the language. So each environment is different. Of course the islands are different than Valencia or Barcelona, but there are plenty of things that are trying to be done so that Catalan is available for everyone to be learned.
For instance, one of the APPs I told you that we developed is like if it was Tinder, but to I mean that you put yourself there and use either for learning or for teaching Catalan.
Is that how you're going to market it?
No. But you understood, right? Yes?
Thank you very much for the talk. And I noticed throughout a lot of it, there was a lot of crossover with the situation that's happening in Wales and their relation to language as well, which is what my current study is on. And I was curious about, because I'm from a film studies background, and before there was like autonomous Welsh language media outputs, there was virtually no Welsh language like TV, film or radio broadcasts in a centralised system. And I was wondering, I guess obviously not particularly during the Franco eras, but like either side, how common it is to see Catalan productions in like more centralised Spanish media, and if the situation is any different.
Centralized Spanish media is zero. That's it. It's easy to answer that question.
That's not fair.
No?
Spanish national TV does disconnections for Catalonia.
Yeah, but not central. Not
No,
central.
but it exists and now it's available online. That's the
Well,
one only thing, right?
Encara ho fan, això?
Yeah.
Well, then it's very little.
BBC and there's like BBC Scotland, BBC Wales, but even that happened like a bit later. At first, it was just a singular BBC.
Yeah.
And like I said,
So there is an attempt of a Spanish version of that, but it's really just an attempt. They do very little production, and it's not, so it was not available for the whole of Spain until fairly recently, when they basically put it online, but they only air it in Catalonia. So if you're a citizen from, I don't know, Extremadura, the chances that you will ever come across a production that's in Catalan are extremely low.
We are lucky that we now have Netflix, and before it goes to Netflix than Spanish TV. It's true. We have like the 2 series in Catalan now in Netflix if you want to. but
What are the names?
Marlí and Com si fos ahir. No, Com si fos ahir no. Ojalá no t'hagués conegut mai. No és ojalá, com es diu?
Tant de bo.
Fly barbaríssimes,
I'm sorry.
no,
Yeah.
not to my students.
Well, at least two series, 2 movie series in Netflix. And
Marlí's
and not
nice.
in Spanish.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah, so this also. So 3.
Was any other question?
Gràcies a tots d'haver parlat. I just wanted to ask if the ONG takes a pro-independentist stance.
Sorry, can
A
you?
pro-independentist stance with regards to like Catalan independence, because one of the slides said the only way in order to kind of make the language kind of respected would be by having an independent state. So
Yeah, because every language needs a state that supports and protects it, and we don't have any except for Andorra. I mean, Spain or France could have been our states if they wanted to. It's not that any particular language has a state. You see, in Switzerland they have 4 languages because they have Romance plus Italian, German, and French. But if the feeling we have, and I think it's clear that it's not only our feeling, is that the state, what is not protecting us, is attacking us. So that's why I said that we need a state. And since neither France nor Spain want to be our state, it has to be another one. Let's understand the point?
And if I may add, because I'm a historical linguist, so that belongs to my field of work, I think that the current situation massively derives from the nation-state model that is really in place, especially in Western Europe, whereby you identify one state with one nation and one language. So this need of having to have this homogeneity to be able to be a proper nation-state is what threatens Catalan currently.
But this is not always the case. Think of Switzerland, think of Belgium, and even more, in Finland, there's about 6 to 10%, something like that, of Swedish speakers, and they have rights, and that they are very little and very.
Yeah, I'm not saying, but I'm saying that it comes historically.
Yeah.
This
But
nation-state notion.
yes.
And well, Spain definitely tries to implement it, not very successfully because we still exist.
Spain tries to imitate the French model, essentially.
Yeah.
Since
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
the revolution.
That's exactly the case. Yeah.
Do you find that so I did a study a couple of years ago, like with the situation in the Basque country. Do you ever find that there's like similar organisations, and do you ever sort of communicate or
Yeah, there are similar NGOs in the Basque country. This I told you that we are part of 3 international networks.
yeah.
Basques are part of them, and we collaborate with them. The situations are different, though, between Catalan and Basque, but there are NGOs there as well, more or less like us.
Not as powerful, no?
We are bigger, yeah. Yes?
Do you focus on different issues in different Catalan-speaking areas?
Yes, we work very specifically because it's a very sensitive aspect as well. We cannot go to Valencia and say exactly the same that we say in Barcelona many times or anywhere. So all these different territories, the thing is about the same, but for instance, even sometimes just the name in Valencia, they call it Valencian. It's the same language, no problem, but when we do advertising or whatever, or document or whatever for Valencia, we put Valencian, and there are different situations. For instance, in the schooling system, the schooling systems are different in all the territories, so we have to work specifically for each area, yeah. More questions? No?
Well, then, thank you very much for coming and defying the rain. Now you've been rewarded with some sun. And I think that Òscar definitely deserves another round of applause.
Yeah. Is there any other event of the CUCAT happening soon? Or no? I think not. But again, thank you. You can follow us on Facebook as well. Yeah.